committee is ready to meet. Would you please go through and identify yourself?
Nancy Bonacera.
Sorry, Nancy.
It's okay.
Sayed Ghani.
Carl Foss.
Nick Priest.
Barbara Addison Reed. So let's go ahead and get started with the agenda. First on the list is to look at May 27 minutes. Carl?
So I sent you all actually two PDFs. One was the May 27th minutes, and Kirsten down at the clerk's office told me that I never approved, or at least I never submitted the January 5th meeting minutes. And as far as I can tell from my records, we didn't approve it at any of our meetings, so I'd like to do those as well, if that's okay with everybody.
Yes.
Did anyone see anything I need to add to either of those records? Okay, seeing, I will move that we approve the minutes from our May 27th, 2022 meeting.
Second.
Moved in second. Let's vote. Out loud.
Nancy Bonacera, yes.
Sayed Ghani, yes.
Carl Foss, yes.
Nick said yes. BJ says yes. 5-0-0. Minutes
Thank you.
approved for May 27th. January 5th.
I move that we approve the minutes from our meeting of January 5th, 2022.
Second. Saeed.
Yes. Sayed Ghani, yes.
All in favor, say your name and vote.
Nancy, yes.
Carl Foss, yes.
Nick Priest, yes.
I already said yes, BJ. You're the one remaining.
I was waiting for you to say yes. BJ Addison Reed, yes. 5-0-0.
Thank you all. I will get those into the clerk's office tomorrow.
Great.
Thanks, Carl.
Thank
Thanks, Carl.
Thanks.
Next, we have on the agenda, it's the meeting of the Select Board and DEI to meet, and we were looking for a date. So I'm checking in with Nick to see if we have a date that has been suggested.
Sorry. So I'm because I missed last meeting. Where? What's this in regards to?
This was the combined meeting of the Select Board and Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee to meet and talk about DEI and the direction that we're going and to participate in an activity. It was submitted and there were 3 90-minute meetings proposed, and we decided to go with the first meeting. So we're looking for the date for that combined meeting.
Okay. All right. So this committee is hoping that we'll do the first 90-minute meeting. Okay. So let me talk with Mike Espejo and look at the calendar and talk with Lynn at the office and see what works in terms of dates as we move through the summer.
Okay, that'll be great. And you'll let us know so that we can make sure. I don't know whether this is an executive meeting because it's just the 2 groups or how this meeting needs to run.
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think that's been the biggest hang up in terms of, like what these meetings, how they're going to function and what purpose they serve. So yeah, let me circle back. Give me a week. And I apologize because my new job has been a little bit more crazy as of late. So my mental capacity has been a little drawn. But I will give me a week and I will try and figure something out.
I would suggest that it's a meeting that combines the 2 groups and there are activities that we will engage in. It's not as though we have an agenda like we do tonight that we're covering and need approval. This is an activity that stimulates our thinking about our engagement in diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Yep.
Okay.
So I'll confirm what type of meeting that needs to be classified as.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You got it.
Next item on the agenda is our committee meeting with Burlington executives. And I submitted a document to you that suggests what that agenda should be. And it's DEI and Burlington Executive Leaders Agenda dated for today. And it begins with an example of philosophy, an example of the select board statement, and there's a second page to that as well. You should have received that along with the agenda for this meeting. So that's what I thought we would talk about now. Any thoughts or ideas?
Well, the first thing is I might have signed up for too many committees, but aside from that, I was starting to look at the annual report, and most of the committees look like they have a, purpose. They don't necessarily have a mission statement per se, but within each purpose, there probably is a place to put, at least a sentence about DEI. And like you've laid out in the document, we have the town mission statement from the select board and then the various other things. So I think we should look at both and maybe to start and introduce ourselves, contact each person with an email saying this is, what we're looking at, and then set a time to meet. Um, so that could be something to do within the next week or two, at least do the initial contact. Because I'm not imagining this should be a very complicated, arduous thing. I mean, I might be wrong, but the main purpose, right, is to get a little bit of language, whether it's just a sentence or two there that acknowledges that we also strive for DEI in each group and work within that, with those intentions.
I completely agree with you. One of the things that I mentioned in setting up the agenda is that there's an opportunity to meet via Zoom or WebEx, either one of those. So there are two members from this committee and the key executive. The agenda that I planned is to review what is the philosophy, what is the mission statement, and what has been adopted by the select board. That's a guide for how the executive might want to frame it for their part or their department that they're running. We also have the definitions of diversity, equity, inclusion by race, and each word for diversity, equity, and inclusion. And then on page 2, I mentioned a process that develops the managerial skill. And it may be that the key executive is looking to have their managers engage in the process of understanding what it's like to hire someone, and bring them to work here for the town of Burlington. We also might want to look at employee relations, which is the relationship between manager and employees. That's a possibility for training. And also to look at and just look over the definition of what does it mean by compensation, what does it mean by benefits, and do we have enough knowledge to be able to direct how those questions might be answered by human resources for the town of Burlington. So that's just the content of what I thought that meeting could look like. And if there's an opportunity here to change it, then now's the time to talk about it.
I was grateful that you sent it, BJ. Thank you. I think it's going to be very helpful to kind of frame what these meetings should kind of revolve around. And I was struggling on how to approach it. And I think that once you sent it and I read it, I was like, duh, this is exactly what we have been talking about for almost 6 months now, or longer than that, actually. And it was like just light bulb, this is what we gotta do. So thank you again.
Yes. Well, thank you for that support. I appreciate that. We also want the key executive to know that they may want to have a discussion among their managers or whether they can decide the language that they want to use, because we do want to introduce that whatever they accomplish around diversity, equity, inclusion should be documented and then submitted part of their annual report to look at how they have begun to engage in this activity. And so we want to share, even though we don't make the decision with talking about it this month, over the next several months, they may want to move forward. Saeed, yes.
2 questions, BJ. So, I'm gonna take the annual report piece first because you just touched on it. So, are you saying that we, as the committee speaks with these execs, we will essentially be telling them that their departments or teams would be assessed um, on their achievement of the DEI goals on an annual basis? Or to I guess to say it in a better way, that their achievement or lack thereof of DEI goals is going to be published in the annual report. Is that what you're saying?
We're talking about introducing diversity, equity, and inclusion holistically through the select board, but also through the key executives who are running departments for the town.
Yep,
And,
I
and
get
they
that.
may, and they may want to develop their own language for their department, which it could be the same or slightly different than what the select board did. So it's the opportunity for the key execs to examine that and make a decision. When they report in the fall what they did to begin the process to look at diversity, equity, and inclusion, any language that's adopted should be submitted as part of the annual report. What we also have to decide, and it's working with Joanne Faust, who's the Director of Human Resources. My hunch is she is the person that would keep the diversity scorecard. And that begins to measure each department and what they're able to succeed in doing on an annual basis. So there are two separate activities. This is just the first to open up the door to say this is where we're focused.
Okay. Help me if I missed something, but we do not have the select board's okay, formal okay, to start with the scorecard yet.
We have not talked to the select board about the scorecard. No, we have not.
Yeah,
So,
yes, we have.
We have?
Sorry. So just to clarify, and I apologize because I don't have the meeting date, but it was after I became chair of the select board that we got verbal confirmation that this committee could move forward with the remaining 3 items, one of which was the diversity scorecard.
that's the answer I was looking for. Thank you very much.
I
Because
didn't know that.
I didn't recall that we actually got that approval also.
Yeah, and then 2 or 3 meetings ago in this committee, we had this conversation where I affirmed that.
Okay, all right. So my apologies. I must have been asleep in those meetings because I didn't remember. All right, so that answers the first question. Now I'm going back up to the managerial knowledge and skills to implement DEI piece, BJ. The
Yes.
last bullet in there says that, or the last bullet talks about compensation and benefits approaches. Could you expand on that bullet, please? Exactly what would be discussed with the execs there?
That's a process that I'm aware of. If you want more details about what Joanne is doing, then we should have a conversation with her.
My question is, what would we be discussing with the execs relative to that bullet point?
Anytime you hire someone, the person that you're trying to hire will want to know about the compensation and what are being offered as benefits. And that comes from human resources. It doesn't come from this committee.
Right.
I think
That's
there's confusion because, can I jump in briefly?
go ahead.
Um, so my understanding was, like BJ said, we're just gonna start initial contact, start having conversation. So the first thing is to just kind of align our philosophies and intents and missions, purposes. The
Right.
other stuff looks like it's more nitty gritty that Joanne would maybe make a overarching policy, because like BJ just said, that's not really our responsibility. We can have input, but we wouldn't be implementing it. So I would think that's further down the road, or just kind of concurrently working with Joanne and with the leaders, and then they kind of go together at some point.
Thank you, because what I did when I put this piece together, when I listed what we could do, that was my suggestion about what we might want to have a conversation about these topics. We haven't approved it, so if you would like to engage in that, then certainly we should have a discussion with Joanne about it.
Yeah, does that make more sense to everybody? I just want to make sure we're also all. So right now, I think initially it's just contact. Hey, we're the DEI committee. We really want the town to be, brought up to speed, brought to the current times, and really have, explicitly say in their statements, their purposes, that hey, we also embrace the values of DEI, and that naturally comes from the top down, with the select board, starting with the select board statement. And what BJ said is then they can kind of pick and choose, or write their own thing into whatever statement, and then we have some metrics that Joanne we can work with, and then that would then become like a scorecard and then go into the annual report. That's kind of how I see it. So not like a fast process, but kind of step by step. That's my take on it.
You're right.
That's how I was thinking about it too.
I agree with everybody. And so again, my question is, it seems like the compensation and benefits bullet should be struck out of this proposed meeting points or agenda, because the execs would not be the right folks to talk about compensation and benefits. It would be HR. Does that make sense?
All of those things could be struck out for that reason.
So just hopping in for a second, I feel like if the intent of this is to gain alignment with each of these key executives around them understanding what this committee is doing, right? And asking them to consider, adding DEI specific language into their, specific departmental areas. If that's the start of this conversation, then I think what Said's saying is maybe the rest of it can be put on hold for now. And I tend to agree, especially when it comes to monetary compensation, given the unions and everything, that that's just a much bigger, convoluted conversation that I think might be off-putting to the executives at an initial meeting. But I feel like we're all starting to say the same thing. So correct me if I'm wrong. Like I feel like we're all more or less on the same page. But I'm trying to clarify.
I I think you've said it better than I did. I could, Nick, or I did, because I, in my humble view, this would be a bad topic, quote unquote, bad topic to discuss in a first meeting. Secondly, execs, we haven't had any touch point with any exec as far as as far as I understand right now, right? There may have been some informal conversations, but no official, you know, meeting. So, and then given the sensitivity around compensation and benefits itself, not so sure how many execs would be willing to talk about that. And then those numbers, or those amounts typically are set by HR with input from departments. So HR would, unless I am missing something, HR is the owner of those numbers. They would be the right people to talk to about that. That's my view.
Okay. I think we are all pretty much on the same page, and I think the document is more of a guide of like the different metrics. We don't necessarily control them. Don't necessarily need to know them. Like you said, HR should be the ones in charge of the people that are in charge of these groups. But I think BJ put them there because they are measures of what eventually we want to look at and achieve and measure. Versus not something we need to do physically or ourselves, but um, something that they would consider. So yes, if we are reaching out and we wouldn't necessarily send them this document, maybe we would just send like the part about the mission statement, but to keep in mind that, those are things we or they should look at later.
Yeah, and I think Nancy, you're spot on with the approaching the conversation via an email to start, with our intent, right? Like this is why we're reaching out to you today. That's not a very sales pitchy, but something that just opens the door, because to Saeed's point, right, this committee hasn't had any contact with any key executives beyond the select board. So use that email as a way to broach the conversation, introduce ourselves, ask for 20 minutes, a half an hour of their time, just to level set, have a conversation, get their thoughts and feedback. I think it'll be good for us to have that knowledge. It'll be a deeper insight that we currently don't have.
I'm okay, and we can strike that from the document. I do want to reference the statement that we have at the bottom, which is tying into the activities today should be expressed in the annual report. So we'll leave that as the opportunity that we want to discuss as well with the key executives. Any other thoughts?
Yeah, I think the initial meetings will be important too, just to even for ourselves to learn what goes on in each department in more detail, and also what they are already doing in terms of DEI or what their thoughts on how they can, contribute to that. And then we can also, talk about what we've done so far, and that could be a nice way to introduce and then talk about the purpose.
Right.
Again, I don't think this will be a fast process, but hopefully not painful. um, again, yeah, intent right now it's more about words and intent and just starting, let's align and work toward a common goal.
Okay. What we said we would try to do in our May 27th meeting was to schedule these meetings during the month of June if we could possibly do so. And we know that the pair that are working together to set up that meeting. I would suggest to you again, you can either use WebEx if you want to do a meeting that way, or I could schedule one through Zoom when you want to host a meeting and set it up for you. I would do it from here between you and the key execs so that you can meet collectively. But once I pull the meeting, I would not sit here and listen to your whole conversation.
Yeah, I think, yeah, I don't have any of the paid accounts, so yeah, if there's a way
That's
to
why I
get,
was offering to be able to
yeah.
do Zoom. It's easy enough to do.
Hmm.
We just need to know the dates and who's participating. And I'd set them up at the time and make sure that everybody gets through and can meet for a half hour or however long you want to meet. But it's easy to do that rather than trying to combine a place where you'll meet in somebody's office.
I'm also thinking about the June timeline because I think most of us are kind of scrambling because it's like end of school and start of summer. So I think more reasonable goal is to just at least make first, contact with email and schedule. We might not actually have the meetings this month, but if we can at least contact and try to start scheduling them. Because summer's a weird time too, where people are away. But yeah, I think definitely within the next couple of weeks, just try to send that greeting email with some information.
That's fine. Let me know the dates and I'll make sure that you get the notification for when the Zoom meeting is going to occur, and then just we'll move forward.
Hmm. Okay.
Any other thoughts?
Um, are we happy with how the the committees are distributed right now? Um, I think I'm on like 6 of them right now, so it's okay. I mean, I assume it will be like a similar conversation, and I do know some of the people, um, but I know Saeed, you said you were pretty busy, and that's fine. Nick, does it make sense for you to be on me, or are you thinking as select board, maybe you're gonna step back from this?
You know, not even from that perspective, Nancy. I'm incredibly busy.
Okay,
Um, Normally, I'd be happy to take on, one more thing and help out, but especially leading into the parade, and
yeah,
I
gotcha.
just I'm at max capacity right now. I apologize.
Okay, no problem. I mean, I think I can handle it, but I just wanted to ask also, just, if you guys wanted any of them.
Yeah, I mean, if your goal is to do emails in June and then set up meetings for like July, key me in on meetings that are happening in July, and if I have time, I can help out because the parade will be over, so that will be off my plate in terms of things that I'm concerning myself with, and I'll have a little more bandwidth to kind of help out.
Okay,
I would suggest that send your email, get set up for the meeting, notify me, and when I send out the location with all of the codes for the Zoom meeting, I'll include Nick so that you can hear, and if there's one you want to participate in, you can.
Thank you, BJ.
That makes it easier than trying to figure where do we go, where do we go, what are we going to do?
hmm
All right. And same
I
way with
appreciate
you,
it.
Saeed. If you want to join a meeting, you'll be notified. And if you want to participate, go right ahead.
Sure, makes sense.
Okay.
okay. But we need to make sure it's only two of us, right? Because
There are
otherwise,
Correct.
two of us, and there are 7 people that we're trying to meet with for key execs.
yeah. But I mean, within each meeting, we have to kind of confirm
There are
who's
2 of us,
going
yes.
to. Yeah.
And if a third wants to join, it's great.
Well,
No,
I think
Well,
what Nancy's
we
trying to
can't have
say,
a third one.
We're all talking at once.
sorry. Three makes quorum, so only two people can be on the meeting.
Okay.
Two from our committee.
now,
Correct.
would it be still afoul of OML if we listened but did not speak?
That's a question for Nick.
I want to say yeah. I mean,
Okay,
town council typically says err on the side of extreme caution.
of course.
You're saying
You
it should
know,
just be 2.
so I will. Yeah,
Okay.
I mean,
Next
what?
up.
Oh, sorry, just one more item. What I could do is even just draft a form letter, and then it would be okay to like show it to you guys, or maybe we have to wait till the next meeting if I show it to everyone.
Well, you could share it, we just couldn't comment on it.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, so I can do that, and then I mean, it should be pretty straightforward. Um,
Thank you.
just so you have something, and then we don't have to necessarily do double the work or repeat.
Okay.
I'll,
Well,
I'll work on that.
the suggestion that I sent with those categories, I will take out that area about the managerial knowledge and skills, take that out of the document, but resend the document as it is. Nancy, if that's what you want to use to create a document, it's okay. But
Okay.
these are the categories that are presented as a way of having the discussion.
Okay. I mean, so we could start the email with, I mean, yeah, we could attach something and then kind of explain a little bit within that email what the document is for. So I
Yes,
can do like that, something like that.
that's fine. Next item on the agenda is to open the meeting. So if there are any comments that participants would like to make, this is the opportunity.
just quickly want to jump in before we get going, um, and just remind everybody that as of right now, um, the the emergency order that was put in place for hybrid meetings and remote meetings through the pandemic technically ends, I believe, July 15th. Um, that being said, I already reached out to town council and to Representative Ken Gordon on this, and there is legislation they're trying to. It's been proposed that they move it to December 2023, so they would allow for the remainder of this year and all of 2023 to be maintained in this hybrid format. But I just want to let everybody know that if that does not pass, come I believe it's July 15th, we'll have to start maintaining uh, full in-board meetings, full in-person meetings. The town did pass a remote participation policy like the year before the pandemic, um, that allows us to, like, for some of us to be absent, or be remote, but the language on that's a little wonky. So I'm trying to work with town council to iron some of that out to make it a little bit more accessible. So this is just an FYI that, if things don't go, that we'll have to start booking a room and meeting in person.
Okay, thank you. Any other public comments?
I think there might be a couple callers on here. I talked, and I think most of us have heard that there's been a little controversy about putting the pride flag on the common, specifically on the Havoc, the dog sculpture. The current this or where the current state is that the flag was turned into a bandana, and then the smaller sign underneath that everyone is welcome in Burlington on the pride flag the sign had to be moved. The band and the big flag turned into a bandana. The smaller flags also had to be moved, and those are across the street in the sculpture park right now. So I think there's some people concerned about that and um, felt that the changes with the flag made them feel like, that's not a very welcoming thing for Burlington or to show versus they thought they had permission to go ahead and decorate the dog for Pride Month. So I think there's some people want to discuss, why that was, and I know Nick, you've been involved, and there are rules regarding specifically on the common what can be put up, but I think people want to get some clarification and also let their concerns be known and just what kind of impact was felt, whether or not there was any intent to make anyone feel unwelcome or not included. And I think go ahead and see if anybody would like to speak to that.
Sure, I would speak to that.
Please go ahead.
And
Tell us your name.
Jessica Sporandio.
Hi.
Hi, thank you. No, I appreciate what everyone is doing with coming up with mission statements. I think that is something that I looked for on the website. I was concerned because I moved here last August and I just expected there to be pride flags up in the town, since that is how most towns, at least in the surrounding area, celebrate pride. It's something that just happened. So I kind of came in thinking that that would be something that happened. And when it didn't, I joined a Facebook group online to see what was going on and why there weren't any flags in the town common. So that's when I learned about the past year, the flag being denied from the flagpole. And this is, again, what I heard from groups online. And also this year, that it was not put in advance, asked for the flag to fly on the common, which that should be something that I believe the DEI Commission would have every year in June. That shouldn't be something that needs to be asked for, in my opinion. It is a very common practice in most towns, and to me it feels very exclusionary.
Thanks for your comments, Jessica. If everyone doesn't mind, can I go ahead and just address a couple of these concerns? So first of all, I'm 100% on board with. I wish that we could have a flag on the common. Like you're right, a lot of other neighboring towns do it, and I do think it's actually shameful that we don't do it. There was a controversy last year. We don't really have a new policy. Nick could speak more to that. Certainly, that's something the DEI committee can work on, advocating for, because it's not just Pride, there's also other flags, maybe other groups, maybe other displays that maybe sometimes it feels like they're just not allowed, or maybe, I mean, I'll just throw it out there, like, seeing like the crush on Christmas, the manger in front of town hall might feel kind of exclusionary to many people who, because we're not all Christians. Um, so my point with our group is, we've actually only been around since last October, so we don't have a yearly policy for Pride Month, or we haven't had a chance to do this. And the incident with the dog was literally just like a couple days ago, and I've been actively listening and supporting people with that. And certainly, I'm glad you came to this meeting to voice your concerns. But I just wanted to also address that, yeah, this hasn't come up here, mainly because we're so new. Again, it's something we could work together to address. And those are my thoughts, and I want to let my other fellow committee members to say some things.
Hey, Jessica, Sayed here. I have a couple of quick questions. So just I wasn't aware of this. I'm just trying to wrap my head around exactly what happened. So are you saying that approval was requested by the town from the town, but one wasn't provided to fly the pride flag? That's my first question.
From what I understand, I believe it was last year, and this year, it sounds like nobody requested it. My thought is that why should it have to be requested a month in advance if Pride happens every June and Massachusetts has celebrated Pride for many years now? It should be a town knowledge that every June a Pride flag should fly on the common.
Okay. All right.
So,
So go ahead.
Said, I just want to jump in real quick and clarify a couple things. So, first off, I will be making a more formal statement at our meeting on Monday. And I hope and expect that people will come and seek to use citizens' time at that juncture as well. So what happened was, the Pride Committee, which is its own independent, resident run committee, um, sought approval for uh, the flag on the dog and the sign and the other flags and things of that nature. But they did it through the Sculpture Park Committee, which wrongly gave them the approval. So the Sculpture Park Committee didn't have the authority to do that. The common and a lot of municipal owned land is what's considered either in the public forum or not in the public forum. And we have treated the common as what is considered not in the public forum, meaning that we have designated places and request forms for things like signage and event requests, right? So the flag went up on the dog, the sign went up, and everything like that. And when we received, phone calls, concerns, the common was, had, items on it. I asked for folks to send me photos because I wasn't able to get down there. Um, I asked the chair of the Sculpture Park Committee to have the flag tied on the dog like a bandana, because in the past 2 years we've allowed the bandana to be, they've rotated bandanas on the dog, and it hasn't really been an issue. So I said, because I'll get to the flag policy in a second, but I said let's go with what we've done historically. Have the flag tied on like a bandana, but the sign and the flags that are on the common have to go, because no official approval was sought, or given, because it wasn't requested of the select board. Um, so that's the one issue, right? Um, the other thing, the the notion of the celebration of Pride Month and the flag on the flag. So number one, the select board supports and approves the use of the common for Pride Day every year. The last couple of years that it's been requested, no questions asked. We love it. We want to support everybody. The flag came under question because folks started asking last year, how come we don't do the pride flag? It's a fair question. To which we started looking into it and realized that our flag policy didn't cover anything about community related flags. It only ladders back up to the state flag policy, which covers the American flag and military flags and how they should be flown. Um, so we sought to amend that. So we had an initial draft policy that came before us last year. Folks weren't super comfortable with it. I've been working with town council over the last year to revise and to look at it, see what makes sense. Because once we put it into place, with the process in place, we just want to make sure that from a legal perspective, nobody else, comes in and tries to sue us for saying no to a certain flag. So two things are happening, right? It's the issue that occurred on a common because proper approval wasn't requested, and then how the town of Burlington Select Board supports the LGBTQ plus community as it pertains to Pride.
Other comments?
Nick, question. So is that the flag policy? Are you saying that's under review or update? Is there a timeline? I guess that's question number one. And if yes, is there a timeline for the policy to be, the updated policy to be implemented?
Yeah, so I spoke with town council today, actually, in the light of everything that's been going on, and asked. Um, Word just came down. There was a Supreme Court case involving the city of Boston that involved community flag flying. And so I guess that information was just passed from town council to town administration. I have not reviewed it yet. So the goal is to circle up, review that, and then see how it affects or does not affect, our policy as it stands. In terms of a timeline, I'm hoping that we can, talk about this summer. But I want to make sure that, all of personally my I's are dotted and T's are crossed when it comes to town council's explanation of everything.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, you're right. There was a case last month on town there on Government Square that didn't allow a certain flag to be flown, and then that group sued, and the Supreme Court ruled in their favor. I remember reading about it. Yes, you're right. Thank you for that information.
My sense is that this is the first time that this kind of presentation has been presented to the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee. I don't know whether you were speaking on behalf of the Select Board, Nick, or whether you were speaking on the behalf of this committee.
To clarify, I was speaking as the chair of the select board in that moment, just to clarify in the situation. I have no intent to speak for this committee, because anything that we decide obviously is advisory to the select board. So, I wouldn't want to put words or assumptions in anyone's mouth here.
Thank you. Other comments?
Yeah. I would like to respond if given time after other people have a chance.
We're
Do you mind if I say something?
2 minutes.
Oh, I need much less than 2 minutes. I'll even put my camera on so you can see me. Maybe. Hi, Nikki Cadillac, I'm a resident, and I just wanted to advocate for proactively placing the item on the agenda for next year. So thinking about in April or May, proactively placing an agenda item on the DEI committee's agenda, and then I will separately advocate for placing that on the select board's agenda. Just to sort of get everything approved at once, just like the select board recently made a proclamation for May being the month of kindness. It's just as easy to make a proclamation of June being Pride Month, and hopefully wrapping all of those things in together, but keeping the DEI committee, having you all be aware and proactive about that will help keep the select board also aware and proactively thinking about it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
If I can just make a comment, so Nikki, just so that you're aware, the duration of this committee is for 12 months. As of right now, I mean, as when the committee was formed, I don't know, and unless anybody else is aware, unless the select board decides to extend our duration, we will cease to exist at the end of that 12-month period, just so that you're aware.
October
I
3rd.
am, but fingers crossed for you guys, okay?
Thank you.
Thanks, Nikki.
And if it's okay, I'm Andrea Bono Bunker. I'm also a resident, and I would like to voice my support for those measures. And I really appreciate the open and honest dialogue around this issue. I think the work that your committee is doing is difficult work and important work, and I appreciate that you're undertaking this for our municipality. I think it's wonderful. I do hope that it extends even beyond Pride, that it is something that, for Juneteenth and for all of the months and days that celebrate the diversity in our community are honored in a way that makes everybody feel welcome and included in our town, I think is really important. So I just wanted to thank you for listening tonight, and thank you for allowing us to join your meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you, Andrea.
Thank you, and do please come again.
Next item on the agenda is that we have a meeting scheduled for the 22nd of June at 6.
That might be a day I would have to leave early as well, depending on how long we go, but otherwise I'm fine with it.
Well, we'd love to have you here.
I mean, I would be here at 6. It's possible I'll have something else at 7 that night, but it's not confirmed yet. I just want to put that out there now.
Well, we're moving in the right direction, so thank you very much. Motion to adjourn?
PJ, I think Jessica wanted to say another comment. I don't know if that's allowed or if we've moved on. Maybe if we give her a minute.
Is Jessica still there?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Would you like
Thank
to?
you. I appreciate that. I just wanted to respond to Nick about the rules and revisiting in July about the flag. I think this is a case that the rules should be waived, and I do believe that you have the power to do that, to allow the flag to fly. So it does feel like the town board is excluding it, even and using and hiding behind the rules as they hid behind the rules the previous year. Thank you for letting me speak and respond.
Thank you, Jessica. I think it's clear there needs to be a policy change, and I think, Nick, you're gonna see what you can do. And this will be on the agenda at the next select board, right? So we can talk about it. Or citizens' time, they can talk about it.
Citizens time, yep. And then, like I said, I've put on an agenda item to make a public statement.
Okay.
To help clarify more or less what I'm doing tonight around what the efforts that we're trying to make.
Great.
Any other comments? Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All those in favor, say your name and your vote.
Fayazani, yes.
Nancy, yes.
Carl, yes?
Nick, yes.
BJ, yes. Thank you. Talk to you
Thank
soon.
you.
Bye.
All right.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Have a great night.
Night.